Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Crow, the Pittsburgh lead reporter for Technically. We're a news organization that covers the intersection of entrepreneurship, tech careers, and economic opportunity for aspiring and established technologists. We basically cover anything that spurs innovation in the ecosystem. Make sure to sign up for our weekly Pittsburgh newsletter at technically.com/subscribe and check out the other stories on our website. Our mission is to make news accessible for everyone, so our work has no paywall. Now let's get into it. Today I'm joined in the studio by Sensible Photonics, co-founder Paul Ohodnicki, and executive advisor Michelle McGregor-Smith. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for being here. So from my understanding, Sensible Photonics is trying to create a world where there's no catastrophic power equipment failures in the energy sector. How does the company work towards that goal, and why is it so important right now?
So Sensible Photonics is based on a long history of innovation in the area of advanced sensing technologies, specifically around fiber optic sensing. And one of the challenges with monitoring existing equipment in the energy sector is the conditions and the requirements for integration of sensing into these very expensive, very critical assets. And so our approach is to take a technology which is inherently more compatible with integration into systems like transformers, grid storage, or other energy assets, and to utilize it for real-time monitoring to provide utilities, original equipment manufacturers, and other industrial stakeholders with information they need to be able to take action before these catastrophic failures occur.
Could you just talk a little bit about what kind of solutions you create, like really break it down for me, and how they sense a problem before it happens?
Yeah, our approach is based on fiber optic sensing, and one of the advantages of the technology is because it doesn't have any wires, it doesn't have any electrical power at the actual sensor node. It's much easier to integrate in a number of different systems. And so we have some proprietary device constructions, ways to functionalize fiber optic sensors to make them sensitive to specific parameters of interest. And we've also built some unique intellectual property around how we actually interrogate them and then communicate that information back or process that information. So it's really a suite of technologies. One of the challenges with traditional fiber optic sensors, we're not the first group to work on this, is that it tends to be expensive. And so another part of our approach is that we really try and take the angle of not to overcomplicate or over-engineer the sensing devices, because if they're too expensive, then it's not economical for real-time monitoring to prevent failure. So that's one of the key aspects that we take as well. So it's using light with optical fibers to measure internal parameters within a system, and that allows us to make conclusions and make kind of inferences about what the status of that system is early.
And maybe taking a real world example, back in May, we had a huge storm here, and hundreds of thousands of people, they were out without power for maybe a week or more. How could the solutions that you create maybe make a difference in that specific situation in the future?
Yeah, sure. I think we all experienced that pain. Both Paul and I, our families lost power for a number of days, so we definitely experienced it. It's really interesting. A lot of people don't realize that, as Paul alluded to, distribution transformers, like the pole ones that you see in your neighborhood, those don't have sensing devices because of cost. And so today, a power utility company, they know that power is out in a certain neighborhood, but they don't know which ones, which specific transformers. So one of the reasons why it took so long to respond is they literally have to drive around manually and check the transformers one by one. So a sensing equipment like this would have easily sped up detection and repair. And Paul, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, natural disasters are always tricky. Monitoring an asset doesn't prevent it from being hit by a tree, right? So the technology wouldn't be able to prevent every possible failure, but the ones that you can predict, you can prevent failure, give the utility information that they would need to be able to perform maintenance or to schedule their maintenance differently so that they mitigate risks. I think in a scenario like this, like Michelle pointed out, the restoration, kind of the speed and the minimized cost of restoration definitely are one advantage. The other advantage is if you are continually monitoring your system, it's like going to get a physical, right? Or having a real-time monitor of what your state of health is. It's a lot easier for a utility to be able to diagnose where they think the risks would be once an event has occurred. And also, if you're constantly improving the state of your system, when you do have something that you can't prevent, such as, a catastrophic failure that is related to weather or natural disasters, your system overall is more healthy. And so the number of outages, the widespread nature of the outages, the economic costs, they can be significantly reduced. And in terms of cost, one of the things that I think is really compelling is in the electric grid within the U.S., so all of the energy sectors, outages are expensive and they're impactful, right? In the electric grid, I think the latest number we've seen is about $150 billion per year total costs associated with power outages. So
in the US,
and so if you reduce that, that's a huge impact if we think about the scale of the numbers. And another interesting number is that 90% of those outages happen on the last mile of service. So that's where distribution transformers really live, and historically they've been an asset that we haven't monitored actively. We've let them run to failure, but electricity is increasing in demand. We're using it differently. Costs of transformers have increased. Supply chain is more difficult to get access to. I think during the COVID times, lead times for those distribution transformers went up to 1, even 3 years for a utility to get a new one. So being able to avoid outages is very important. So it's a very compelling economic case. We experienced it in our daily lives when we see these outages go. So it's kind of also a very personal thing as well. And so, that's one of the reasons we're so passionate about what we're trying to do.
Yeah, maybe we could get into the origins of the company, because I know you guys launched back in 2021, but there was a decade of work that went into the company before that. Maybe you could talk about that and the work you've done since 2021 as well.
Yeah. So before Sensible Photonics was formed, so I've been in Pittsburgh my whole life, literally worked, educated, career, family. So it's near and dear to my heart. I went to Pitt for my undergrad, did my graduate school at Carnegie Mellon. I actually worked at PPG for a few years, and then I spent 10 years at the National Energy Technology Lab, and that was a great period of my career. We were able to develop a whole suite of technologies in the area of advanced sensing, and just had a pretty robust portfolio of sensing materials, applications of sensors, new concepts, and being able to monitor, energy systems, energy equipment, energy infrastructure. And one of the projects during that time that was very exciting to me was adapting some of those ideas to the electric grid. So the Grid Modernization Initiative was formed in the early 2010s. I was in the Department of Energy from 2010 to 2020. And I just happened to be at the right place at the right time to be able to be a kind of critical contributor, help with a roadmap on grid sensing. And we got a project supported in the area of transformer sensing, and it was focused on distribution transformers. At that time, industry just wasn't ready for it. Transformers were cheap. Electricity was important, but the demand wasn't growing as fast as it is today. Electric vehicle, all the things, data centers, all the things that drive electricity demand, they just weren't quite happening yet. Yeah. And so since transformers were cheap, supply chain was pretty robust, or at least it wasn't a pain point at that time. It was definitely a national lab project, because it was like, well, if we had this visibility, we could try to avoid all of these circumstances, but it just wasn't ready for industrial adoption yet. Fast forward 10 years, and then you have Sensible Photonics forming. And, one of the reasons that I had departed from Department of Energy was to give an opportunity to take some of the technologies we developed and kind of turn them into real world products with impacts. And so that's the history. So in 2021, we started the company, and we basically started the licensing process and worked to secure the licenses that we needed from my former employer. I also am a faculty at University of Pittsburgh, and we've developed some new intellectual property through that route as well. So that was sort of the genesis of it. So Leo Ohodnicki and myself were the founders. Leah sort of drove the business aspects and the company formation. I kind of handled the technical vision. And, after a couple of years of licensing and kind of preparing the company, that's when we formally started to launch it. And so right now is really where, Michelle's been brought on. She's really driving fundraising, driving kind of future company vision, company leadership. And we're really sort of in that mode where we're putting the gas pedal on, because everything that was developed previously that was just a little too early for industrial adoption, we're literally feeling the pain of it now, and it's the right time to really be driving it into the market. So
when did you kind of sense like, okay, this is happening, we do need to ramp it up? Was it like during the launch or post launch of the company?
It's actually been an evolution since the launch of the company. So I've been convinced that it's an important goal from day one of forming the company we definitely noticed, and a lot of it was the supply chain. So if we're talking specifically about the distribution transformer market.
Yeah.
A lot of it was at that time was when COVID was happening, supply chain was becoming an issue, and all of a sudden people started to look differently at distribution transformers and their applications. Grid storage is starting to get much more predominant now than it was back at that time. So it was sort of a right place, right time, getting things in place so that now when the pain point's clear, when the need is very clear, we're in a position to be able to respond to it and scale it. So, part of it was being fortunate, but also part of it was seeing that there was a problem coming, both Department of Energy initially when they supported the work, and then, trying to be in a position at the right time to actually do it commercially rather than having it just stay in a research lab.
Yeah. So 2023, the explosion of AI, us seeing more storms because of climate change, it just continues to affirm okay, this needs to happen.
Right. So EV chargers.
Huge.
Yeah. EV chargers, data centers. Exactly. Yep.
So I know that the company is located in the Energy Innovation Center. Could you tell me a little bit more about this center and why it's important that you're headquartered there?
Yeah, it's so I'll speak to it from the kind of innovation ecosystem, and then maybe Michelle can give a little bit more context to sort of the social economic aspects of it. So from the innovation side, it's a really interesting place because it sits right in downtown, right in the Hill District. It's got a beautiful view, which matters to people who want to work at a place, right? But it also, the University of Pittsburgh is there. There's a number of other small companies there. Duquesne Light is there. There's a medium voltage grid in the building, which is one of very few in the country. So it's sort of this really interesting combination of having all the right players for not just developing instrumentation in collaboration with the university, but testing it at scale in collaboration with the university's medium voltage laboratory, and then having literally your local utility next door to be able to say, how do we adopt this? What are the pathways to get there? So that, to me, that's really exciting, and I think it really provides us with an extremely strong kind of innovation foundation.
Well, in the Energy Innovation Center also, its whole mission is to support Pittsburgh startups. So it's that collaborative. They have workforce development there as well, so you can really partner with groups that are looking for jobs, future jobs in climate tech or robotics, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of synergies going on between all the various companies that are there.
You recently secured 3 grants from the Department of Energy. Could you talk a little bit about these grants and what they'll be used to create?
Sure. We were very fortunate in the last round of SBIR solicitations. We were able to secure 3 primary grants, which are called Phase 1 grants, and pretty much in our 3 primary areas of technology maturation that we're trying to push forward as soon as possible. So one was focused specifically on distribution transformers through the Office of Electricity. Another one was supported in grid storage through the Office of Electricity. And then we had a third that was supported through the Nuclear Energy Office that's focused on kind of managing nuclear spent fuel facilities and how do we do that in a way that's responsible. And so, obviously when your transformer goes down, you feel that directly. We also don't want nuclear storage facilities to have issues in terms of potential failures. And so the same sort of paradigm applies there. And we just were really fortunate, and we are using it to basically take technology that's already been developed and package it and optimize it for those specific use cases, build out the partnerships that are needed to commercialize, and resource the work to really drive it. And so it's been extremely beneficial, and we're really excited about kind of the future moving forward with that. I think it's definitely a good example where some really targeted support from the federal side and from other resources as well can play a huge role in terms of catalyzing, real transition to the market, in addition to just laboratory research, but actually taking it out and transitioning it.
Yeah, there seems to be a real partnership between the federal government and what you do now, obviously in the past and even now as they're investing in you essentially. Is that kind of how you approach a lot of your work, thinking about what kind of partnerships you can create, or I don't know if that's something that you think about?
I definitely do. So from the innovation side, we are always looking at what's the right teaming relationship. And that, to me, actually one of the things I learned very clearly from my time when I was with Department of Energy was how, because I was looking at it from, I started as a program manager actually, and then I moved back into a research role, built a group, and just seeing the world through the lens of federal perspective, and seeing how the impactful innovations really come from the right teaming arrangements and bringing the right talent and the right group together. I'm always looking to have the right group of individuals together, and that's not just the technical side, that's also the business expertise as well. Super critical, and having that right teaming relationship is really critical. And I think when you have federal funds or foundation funds or state funds, that really allows groups to kind of converge around those resources, bring their own resources to the table, and really helps with teaming. So in short, yeah, I mean, partnerships is really how we operate, and we really don't work in a bubble at all.
Well, and our work with the government really goes towards that grid resiliency and grid security, which are two really important national issues for the U.S. And it's a global issue, but it's definitely something that the U.S. is addressing.
I'm also curious if the company has had to make any changes to comply with any new policies from the Trump administration concerning these new grants. Has that been something you'd had to do?
We've been focusing on continuing to move the technology forward and kind of driving it towards the marketplace. And nothing's changed about that since the administration has changed. I think that's really where we're focused, and I think we're in a good place moving forward, and I think we're looking forward to really continuing to drive towards the commercial vision that we have.
So talking about building a startup in Pittsburgh, obviously you're a lifelong Pittsburgher, so am I. I'm curious, what are the best resources in the city Sensible Photonics has been able to take advantage of while building here?
Yeah, so the universities are a huge resource, both from the innovation and technology side. So obviously we still work very closely with the University of Pittsburgh because some of the intellectual property was developed there, but also Carnegie Mellon University has been a huge partner as well. Our connection with Michelle came through Reed McGonigal, who many who hear this will know that if you're from Pittsburgh and working in the innovation entrepreneurship space. So just that network of entities, individuals that want to see success in the region is really powerful. And I think that's been one of the biggest aspects. So definitely the universities. The second piece is Innovation Works is really, I can't underestimate the importance of that organization. They come in with kind of expertise and resources just at the right time. You start a company, you've got nothing. You put a little money in, you do whatever you need to get it going. You try and get the wheels moving, and you're just looking for that first validation. And that validation has to come with some financial. You could have a lot of supportive individuals and organizations, but there just needs to be a little bit of capital to help. And I think Innovation Works through programs like Alpha Lab Gear and related just is hugely beneficial. And I think that it's a great asset for the region. So that's definitely been my experience. I don't know, Michelle, if you have any other comments on that.
Yeah, no, and I agree that they and Catalyst Connection is another group that can really partner you with, scaling for manufacturing, various companies. There is a lot of amazing work being done in Pittsburgh. And it's these groups that can really help you as a startup connect. So if you're wondering where to go, those are two organizations that you can reach out to. Innovate Pittsburgh is another one.
Yep.
So Pittsburgh is very fortunate to have a lot, not only the universities, but these other groups as well.
And I, in addition to the Pittsburgh resources, I do think there's a very collaborative network with some of the just slightly displaced regions. West Virginia's one, especially with my prior work at National Energy Technology Lab. They have a Morgantown, West Virginia site in addition to Pittsburgh. And a lot of support. So some of the early support for Sensible Photonics came through the WVU TransTech program, where there was some kind of early pitch resources that were provided, which were hugely impactful. USRA is a new organization that Michelle's working with very closely for kind of management expertise and resources and just providing a lot of capabilities there. So that's been very beneficial. And then there's also a new consortium, Resilient Energy Technologies Consortium, which is a collaboration of the local universities, but I think it's largely driven from the WVU perspective. And again, they've been very supportive, offered pitch opportunities and resources. And so those again, that just speaks to sort of the collaborative ecosystem that's here. And I think that's something that's really, really special and can go a long way towards helping. Again, that critical, very, very early stage. It's like it's just formed. Is it going to grow or is it going to shrink and go away? And so that's where these resources really, really make a difference.
And you guys have a pretty small team, right? It's not I don't know.
Correct. Yeah. So we currently have, so the total number of team members, depending on how you define it, is about 5, I would say. So we've got 3 employees currently. Actually 4 employees currently. Part-time, and then 3 employees. And then we have another board member, Leah Ohodnicki. And then we also have a lot of collaborations through advisors and university collaborations. And so the team's bigger than that, but that's what the formal team is at this point.
So I'm also curious about some of the biggest challenges the company has maybe faced building in Pittsburgh. Has anything come up? Have you had to overcome something in recent years?
Yeah, I can't think of anything, to be honest. I mean, I may be biased looking at it through my local Pittsburgh lens, but I really don't see sort of, I wish we were based X, right? In fact, I really see it the opposite way, especially with like, literally we're sitting in a building in Pittsburgh with the utility, with the university, with other partners,
with a testing lab,
with a test lab that's suitable for what you need to do, getting resources from the local kind of entrepreneurial resources, getting a lot of support from the Pittsburgh Innovation Institute. And so I really don't see any downsides from that perspective. What certainly is beneficial is larger scale capital investments, and that's always hard no matter where you are, is kind of how I would say it. So it would be nice if there were more of those types of investments available, but I wouldn't say that's a Pittsburgh problem. I would just say that's a challenge with building a company and scaling it, is finding the right capital to be able to do that. And so, to the extent that there were more of those resources in the region, that would be great, I guess is how I would put it.
Yeah.
Well, and I would also say, I mean, the beautiful thing about Pittsburgh, as you both alluded to, is everybody knows everybody, and people really want to see you succeed. And they will, bend over backwards to introduce you to somebody they may know. And, it's a great ecosystem, I think, to work in, especially for a startup.
Do you do a lot of travel to kind of connect with other places where you can get more investment? Is that kind of how you get around that issue?
So, it's funny. So the short answer is certainly travel as needed. The world is so much more connected after COVID, though. I just see, especially in the investor community, I think there was a big reduction in travel required, because I think there was an acceptance of being able to get deals done by Zoom or Teams or whatever other WebEx, whatever you prefer. But yeah, I think that's definitely been a trend. And I think for an early stage company, that's helpful because, travel costs obviously are one additional expense. So in short, yes, we definitely travel, but we also find that for pursuing national resources, you can often get a lot done through the virtual networking.
Yeah. So what's next for the company? Anything else that I didn't ask you that you feel like people should know? And what are you looking forward to in the next couple of years? What should we kind of keep our eye out for?
Want to talk about kind of where we're at, Michelle?
I would just say, we're launching you'll have to excuse me, I sound like a frog, but we're launching our fundraising in earnest now. And as Paul said, that's the real focus, is not only those commercialization pieces, is getting it ready for design for manufacture, but also, to really launch and start talking to those VC groups. There are, we're in the hard tech space, so we're seeking groups that are hard tech friendly, climate tech friendly, and focused on energy. So that we're working with a number of the groups, Innovation Works and USRIA, to get those introductions to VC groups. There was Innovation Works had a really nice VC expo here in Pittsburgh yesterday, which I attended and met a number of great groups. So it's just really getting out there, doing the footwork, having the meetings, and focusing on fundraise. Did you have anything to add to that,
No, I mean,
Paul?
I think we really haven't taken significant investor funds up to this point. It's been through the types of resources that we discussed, which are the local regional resources. And that was intentional because we wanted to further basically the transition from lab prototype ideas to commercial ready. And so through the federal grants, through these incubator resources, through other resources, we've been able to make the progress that we were hoping to. And so now we're starting to move more towards the scaling stage. So it's an exciting time, and we're looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great to meet you.